Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Bowie City Council meeting for April the 16th. I'd like to ask everybody that can to stand as we start every meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Any agenda additions, deletions, or amendments? Have anybody signed up for citizens participation?
No, sir.
Thank you, man. City boards and committees. Mr. Wolfley, you have a nomination?
Yes.
Now that you can see again?
Now that I can see again, yes. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Brian Sudduth to be a member of the Board of Elections.
I'd like to second that.
Second, moved and second. Any question on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Stebb? That's you.
That's right, that is me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move to appoint Mr. Richard Bleach to the Information Technology Committee at the City of Bowie.
Second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. If I could get those gentlemen to join us up here, please. Come on up. We haven't lost anybody in weeks. All right, I know you've never done this before. I'm going to ask you both to raise your right hand, and when I get to the point of swear or affirm, you can select which one you prefer. And so after I say aye, if you would follow with your name, please. Aye. Do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof. And that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of regular member of the Board of Elections, regular member of the Information Technology Committee, according to the Constitution and laws of the state. Congratulations. It's the first night of your 16-year career.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Bleach, I have this for you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. We appreciate the opportunity. As most people here know, the city works well because of a lot of the city committees that we have. City managers, comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have no report tonight. I'll have enough to say when we get to work session, sir.
Okay. All right, council, you have consent agenda, items A through J. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda? Moved by Ms. Is there a second? Moved and second, Ms. Glass. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. New business, approval resolution R24, authorizing payment of incentives to Bowie Economic Development Corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to do some reading for people who aren't aware of what this issue is, so we'll make sure everybody's informed. The purpose of this action is this correspondence and this action is to get the council's approval of an incentive payment to Inovalon using the Bowie Economic Development Incentive Fund, which has the acronym of BEDIF. As background, the City Council embraces the concept and intent to make Bowie an attractive place for business to locate, stay, and grow. To that end, in 2013, the City Council established the Bowie Economic Development Incentive Fund as a tool to help attract and retain businesses. Inovalon is the city's largest employer. Lease was expiring as they were actively considering relocating. Naturally, city staff were looking for ways to keep them in the city. Inovalon's corporate headquarters employees are the largest part of the daytime consumer base for the Bowie Town Center's merchants. In discussion, we noted that in order to retain Inovalon corporate headquarters at their 4321 Collington Road location, the city offered them $1 million payable in 10 annual installments of $100,000. The first payment would be made August the 1st, 2018. 9 additional payments would be made in subsequent years. The city's largest private investor employee is Inovalon, incorporated in their headquarters on Collington Road, and they have an employee base of nearly more than 700 employees. Since the city staff have worked with Novaline and its representatives, we encourage them to stay in Bowie. So in the summer of 2017, the city contacted Novaline's representatives and actively and made them an offer of an incentive to keep their locations in the city of Bowie. Staff subsequently determined that the incentives were needed to retain Novaline in Bowie, since the loss of the largest employee would not only increase the amount of vacant office space, but it would hinder the prosperity and economic stability of the Bowie Town Center. As a matter of information, over the past 10 years, since 2008 to 2018, the city has received over $550,000 in business personal property tax revenues from Novaline. The city expects to receive at least an additional $500,000 in tax revenue over the next 10 years. Additionally, the city expects the assessed value of the fully occupied office building to remain high and continue to generate revenue stream estimated at $778,000 over the next 10 years. I mentioned earlier that the incentive offer is $1 million with $100,000 payable on the 1st of August, and then 9 other payments in subsequent years. So at this point, I'd like to mention what the funding will be. The funding will be provided through the annual budget commencing in FY 2019 as an implementation under the Bowie Economic Development Incentive Fund begins. And the recommendation is that the City of Bowie City Council adopt Resolution R 2418 and appropriate the first $100,000 payment during the FY 2019 budget approval process. We're happy to take questions, sir.
Mr. Stebbins?
I just want to say a quick thank you to Mr. Lott for your presentation on that. Not really that many people in the audience, but I just wanted to quickly go on the record and say I know a lot of us expressed concerns about this when we discussed this in the past. Obviously, none of us here, I think, likes the practice of bailing out large companies, especially given some of the budget challenges we're facing this year. I do want to very quickly say, though, one of the things a lot of my constituents have been expressing to me in the last couple of years is very strong opposition to new residential development. And one of the things that's going to mean is that as other communities around us become more dense, develop more residential, and become much more competitive for retail centers in those areas, we're going to have to face harder and harder choices locally to protect the retail that exists here, including things like this. And so residents have been very outspoken against new residential projects, and consistent with my residents' wants, I voted against a lot of residential projects in Bowie, and will continue to oppose others down the road that I think create too many problems. But this kind of thing, unfortunately, is a part of what's going to be necessary to protect existing retail centers if future councils are as adamantly opposed to residential development as many residents want us to be. And I think that has to be said. It's not going to be a clear win-win down the road if we say no to new residential. We're going to be doing this more, where we're digging into city money to try and protect our businesses, So just wanted that to be said, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. No other questions or motion? We have a recommendation from staff to adopt resolution R2418. Is there a second? Second. Second by Dr. Trout. Moved and second to adopt resolution. Any question or motion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Sustainable Communities Program, Resolution 2518. Mr. Bugs.
Good evening. Several years ago, the Maryland General Assembly passed House Bill 475, the Sustainable Communities Act of 2010. And in the documents you have before you, it states that the act had several objectives, one of which was development of a healthy economy, local economy. Others included protection and appreciation of historical and cultural resources, a mix of land uses, affordable and sustainable housing and employment options, growth and development practices that protect the environment and conserve air, water, and energy resources, encourage walkability and recreation, and create access to transit. The city, the state required all local governments and county governments to file what they call a Sustainable Community Application and Action Plan for 5 years. We filed a 5-year plan with the state that was accepted and approved by the sub-cabinet, the Smart Growth Sub-Cabinet, and now they require us to update that plan for the next 5 years. The update includes a statement about what we did over the past 5 years, and I think you see in the document that we provided for you that the city came up with, through discussions with several departments, 6 areas that we identified as target areas for redevelopment and revitalization. One is Old Town Bowie, a Huntington community. The other is the Bowie Main Street area, Route 50. Another one is the Melford community, which was under development at that time, still under development. The next is Bowie Regional Center around the Bowie shopping center here. And the last one, the next one was the Pointer Ridge Shopping Center area. What we have done in the document you have before you is provide over 350 things that we have done in these 6 areas. And they asked for 3 prominent things that we could announce that we have accomplished. The 3 that we pulled from the 350 were: 1, in the Old Town Bowie area, we talked about our accomplishments in completing trail projects. In the Main Street area, we talked about accomplishments with the redevelopment and revitalization of Marketplace. And we have another here, Bowie Regional Center, where we also talked about projects that were created in this area related to the development of Harmony, the apartment complexes here, and other activities. Like I said, there are a number of things. This, unlike a sustainability plan, which the phrase sustainability has been used by many people in many different places, to cover many different things, and focus primarily on environmental issues. This plan is to be more comprehensive and to be inclusive of both housing, transportation, quality of life issues, and a number of other factors. So the city of Bowie is the only sustainable community in the entire state that has this much land that's incorporated into the sustainability plan. We are the largest sustainability entity within the state. And as a result, the document you see is probably going to be bigger than most that would be filed in response to the application for a redesignation. But that's what this is. It says what we did the past 5 years and tells them that we intend to continue in this effort in these 6 areas for the next 5 years. We could not apply for funds from the state, from 3 or 4 agencies, if we were not an approved sustainable community under the Smart Growth Sub-Cabinet. Therefore, this is not optional. We have to do this. Over the past 5 years, we received, just in my office alone, as it relates to senior housing rehab, over $350,000 from the state toward that program. And with that money, we have renovated 84 homes of senior citizens in the city alone. That does not include any money we receive from the state for trail construction or any other projects. So with the document you have before you is our best effort to provide for them a summary of our achievements, goals, and objectives over the past 5 years, and a statement of the fact we want to continue that process over the next 5 years, and we would like your approval of the application so that we can send it to the state. What they do is we send it to the Housing Community Development Department. They take it apart. They send it to the Smart Growth Sub-Cabinet, which is the Planning Department, and I think 3 other departments, Department of Natural Resources and others. They evaluate it based on the information we provide that affects them. Then they'll get back to us and let us know if we're approved for another 5 years.
Thanks, sir. Staff, any other comments? Have anybody signed up to speak?
No, sir.
Declare the public hearing to be completed. Questions of staff? Mr. Stibb?
Hey, Mr. Buggs, I appreciate all the work that you've put into this. I know that your office has especially done a really good job of public outreach. A lot of residents have told me that they got your mailers and filled those out, so I'm really grateful for that. This report's really comprehensive. Overall, I'm definitely supportive of putting in the application and getting any funds that are available through this program. This is a little bit touchy, but, you know, there are a lot of different groups that look to benefit from these funds. And I think all of us up here are very eager, certainly, to help, in particular, families who are elderly. You know, that's a growing population in the city. I'm a little bit concerned about specifically, you know, assistance strictly for low-income families that aren't elderly. You know, part of the reason is, you know, our city has a lot of prime real estate on the market, as we all know, for disability assistance homes, you know, halfway houses and whatnot. We've got a lot of affordable homes that are on the market, and they're being bought up in pretty large numbers. You know, there are days where I go door knocking in my district where I'll encounter, you know, a dozen, you know, in the span of 3 or 4 hours. I'm hearing more and more from residents in my area that while they certainly have no opposition to these types of homes or to the idea of making this type of housing available, they are a little bit concerned about the sheer volume that already exists in their communities. You know, when you have 2 or 3, as you do in some places in Chapel Forge and Whitehall, on a single street or in a single small area, after a while, you know, that starts to kind of to grate on residents a little bit, especially since, you know, most of these houses are fine, but some of them have been perennial problems that, you know, certainly code enforcement will tell you we've been dealing with forever, and sometimes with no real satisfactory resolution. So I guess my only comment is just, you know, overall I'm supportive, but I do want us to be mindful of moving forward that, you know, especially, you know, if we accept any help or if we have any conversations about, you know, low-income housing or further supporting, you know, folks, you know, whether it's, you know, mental or physical disabilities or anything else, that, you know, we do want to try and balance the concerns of existing residents with the needs of communities that we're trying to help. And that's my only comment.
I just want to ask, are you talking about not group homes or just in homes for people with low incomes?
All of the above.
Okay. Because none of that's involved in this effort, but I'll discuss that with you a little bit. We're talking about senior citizens here who own their homes all over the city, and with the money we spend, it's just been helping them stay in their homes.
So not a single person in this particular program would not be elderly?
No, all of the ones that we spent, the 84 homes, were elderly, yes.
In the 84?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those are elderly. And the reason we're able to get the money because we actually leverage the funds we get from CDBG funds in order to increase the number that we're able to help. Because there's just so many people who are elderly staying in their homes, they've been there for 30 or 40 years, and with no resources from family otherwise, they just have not had the money to put a new roof on or to, you know, get new windows and things like that. So that's what 90% of that money was spent for.
Gotcha. And in this particular, moving forward, in this particular plan, we're only talking about the elderly.
No. This plan is talking about continuing economic development and revitalization of all the communities for everybody within those communities and neighborhoods.
Right.
So this will shift from the elderly consistent with the plan that I presented to you 2 weeks ago for CDBG, where we're opening up housing rehab for all residents within the city who meet HUD's income eligibility requirements.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. That is consistent with what I understood. Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Kraut?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Buggs, how you doing? Thank you for the report. You always do a magnificent job on the reports, and we appreciate all your efforts, especially with the community block grant initiatives that you have developed and articulated to us throughout the years. My question stems around what you had mentioned about Pointer Ridge. Could you give me just a little bit of an idea of what you kind of are referring to or addressing with regard to the Pointer Ridge area? And are we looking at doing something around specifically to Pointer Ridge Plaza? And I know Amber Ridge is up for sale. I just want to get some insight on what we're talking about.
Yes, in the Pointer Ridge community, that was one of the areas. There were 2 areas that we cited as we were not able to get the kind of traction that we wanted to get. So in the Pointer Ridge area, one of our goals and objectives that I had stated in here was for us to take a look at more aggressively pursuing either ownership of the existing center and incentives in order to attract different tenants into that center. And that would be one of our goals and objectives for Pointer Ridge. We didn't have that kind of an aggressive initiative over the past 5, but we're going to try to do that the next 5. And most of the activities that have been there is for us to be in support of anybody who came to us. What we're talking now is about being more aggressive in going out and soliciting someone to actually come in and see if they would be either buy the place or participate in the process for revitalization of the shopping center itself. So within that area, again, one of the things we've also done is there are a number of homes down in that area that have also participated in this other program to upgrade the housing, but we know that we need that retail center to come back to full occupancy and operation.
Okay, thank you on that. With regard to Pointer Ridge Plaza, you probably are aware, but there is a lease that has been signed for the old Giant facility. And the name of the leasee is Sky Zone. I have requested that Sky Zone come before the Community Association of South Bowie. They're also going to be coming to the City Council, but I think they're going to be coming to talk to the Citizens Association of South Bowie on 2 occasions, one at the board meeting and then another one probably at the main meeting. So we're going to be talking with the folks there at Sky Zone to get more input from them on what they want to do. Well, we know it's like trampolines or something. It's like a fun activity for kids and stuff like that, entertainment. So we just want to get a feel for what it is that they're trying to achieve, and then let them know what the community's desires are and how we can work together with the folks from Sky Zone to see what programs that can be initiated to help the community. But with regard with Arbor Ridge is a completely different story. That's just vacant property there. So I don't know if what input you could do to help us with regard to Arbor Ridge. There is a for sale sign there currently. So I just wanted to get some feedback on that and let you know exactly what is going into that Giant, if you already did not know, at Pointer Ridge Shopping Center. So most of the stores at Pointer Ridge Shopping Center will be filled with once we get the Sky Zone up and operational. And we'll get more input when we meet with Sky Zone as to when they're looking at opening up Sky Zone at Pointer Ridge Plaza.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have Sky Zone listed as a commercial recreation use in the document here in the study. I had not received any additional input on the timing or the space. I knew it was the former Giant, so we look forward to the information they're going to provide when they come to talk to council. As it relates to Arbor Ridge, we'll also look and talk to our partners in the region to see what assistance we can provide with that development.
Might also want to entertain the idea, you may want to talk with your boss, Mr. City Manager, to see if it would be something that someone from staff may want to attend when we do meet with Sky Zone, because I think we're supposed to be meeting with Sky Zone, I think, before Sky Zone comes to the council.
Well, we'd be happy to.
Okay,
either jump
but
in or-
I'll give you a heads up on that and let you know exactly when we are going to be meeting with Sky Zone, and have Mr. Antonelli, who is the lawyer for Sky Zone, give you a call or send you an email in addition to me letting you know what's going on.
Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, council, you have a resolution recommendation then to adopt R 2518, as you heard outlined, that to bring us in compliance with House Bill 475, Maryland General Assembly. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Marcos, second by Dr. Trout. Any questions on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Trout, you want to join us in a work session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adjourn from the session, the city council session that we're in, and move to open up budget session, work session number 2.
So moved and second. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. We are now in work session. We will start with Public Works on page 139. Mr. City Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and people listening outside, out there on our television station. Work session number 2 is we're going to discuss Public Works and the water system and our water sewer operation. I'd like to begin with, on page 139 of this, of our proposed budget, with the Public Works Administration Division of the Public Works Department. By description, this division is the hub of the public works services rendered to the city and its residents under the direction of the Public Works Director. The areas of responsibility include solid waste collection, recycling, equipment maintenance, street maintenance, capital projects, management, water filtration, wastewater treatment, and all related services for these divisions. This division is responsible for the management also of the mosquito control program. In 2018, there was an objective to implement improved processes for the intake and tracking of all development, design, review, permit requests, utility connection requests, and the like. The status of this work on this objective is underway and estimated to be completed by June 30, 2018. Staff anticipates publishing an updated application forms and design review checklist on our website at that time. Of significant note is the objective for 2019. It's to implement an on-call professional services contract to improve the timeliness to meet city design and engineering. This is an improvement in the standard operating procedures of the organization, and which involve design, testing, permit-related matters, geotechnical inspections, and more. And it would involve a contract, if used, to be at or below $100,000. The next point there, a significant budget change, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Stefanos for a moment, because we have one adjustment that I'd like to make to the proposal, which is for a part-time employee. George?
The printed budget request for the Public Works Administration does not include an important staffing change that I wish to propose to Council for approval at this time. The change would add a part-time permit specialist position, which is at the city's X-113 pay grade. The estimated annual added cost to the city, including salary and benefit costs, is $37,000. The need for this staffing increase was not adequately described during the budget development process and therefore omitted from the printed proposed budget. I would like to take a minute to explain the need now in order to seek your support for this increase. The Public Works Administration staff currently includes one position that is responsible for preparation and administration of contracts for services and construction, and for administration of all permit requests for work in city rights-of-way, stormwater management, and erosion and sediment control. In addition, this position is responsible to ensure all privately owned stormwater management practices within the city are properly maintained. This particular function is one of the minimum control measures the city is required to implement in order to comply with its MS4 permit. With the current staffing, we are unable to adequately carry out this responsibility. Even after implementing an improved database to simplify processes, the work continues to lag behind required schedules to validate the required annual inspections and maintenance of privately owned facilities is complete. A position dedicated to permit processing and oversight of private stormwater facilities is needed. I believe the needs can be met with a part-time position. With a part-time position, we would establish and advertise open hours, for example, 2 days a week, during which appointments would be available to meet with the city's permit specialists. The specific changes to the printed proposed budget you have in front of you would include, first, a statement where we are under the significant budget changes stating additional .6 FTE permit specialist grade X113. Secondly, a revision to the personal services table on the next page, adding the permit specialist at .6 FTE for fiscal 19. And finally, an adjustment to the total cost for salaries and wages and fringe benefits to reflect the cost for the position. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Mr. Mayor, City Council, I propose to add this to this amendment. Our apologies for not having it in the initial budget. There was a miscommunication on our part. But one of the major points here is that the MS4 permit requirement that we have has added to the workload, and it's essential for us to maintain to have this person to do this job so we can maintain our compliance with that permit. I'd like to point out some other aspects of, on page 140.
Question from Dr.
Go right ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, let me get some clarification here. You said part-time.
Yes, sir.
That's what I heard you say. And then Mr. Stefanos, he had it at .6. Shouldn't part-time be .5?
Part-time is defined as anything 30, it's either less than 30 hours or 30 hours or less a week.
Yeah, I guess I asked
So
I
asked
the wrong question.
It
My
is
question
flexible. It is flexible up to 30 hours a week. So .6 is a part-time position.
Okay, so we're not asking for .5 like we have with the intern.
No,
Correct.
We're asking for .6 because this is the
Yes.
first time I've seen us do a .6 as opposed to a .5. That's why I was asking for the clarification.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to point out that our city government, our biggest costs are personnel, as you can see on page 40. Within that administration, over $1 million for salary and wages and $395,000 for fringe benefits. Are there any questions about the administration division of Public Works? Yes, sir.
Under salaries and wages, we have $1,042,800. What's the new figure?
That will be $1,042,000 plus $37,000.
Okay, plus 37,000.
Yes, sir.
1,079,800.
Okay.
Okay then, any other questions about the administration? Well, if none, we'll move on to the equipment maintenance and garage on page 142. Under description, this involves the maintaining and repairing of city vehicles and equipment. It's a primary responsibility of this particular division. Our objectives for 2018 were to study the reduction of contracted periodic vehicle maintenance services on refuse trucks from 4 to 3 times a year. This reduced the service frequency, could result in a $13,000 annual savings and a reduction in waste oil. This objective was completed, and modified maintenance schedules have been implemented for the city's refuse trucks. Staff will continue to monitor the maintenance frequency to ensure that the recommended maintenance intervals, mileage, and hours are not exceeded, and of course we'll monitor to see if we in fact profit by that $13,000 savings. Under the objective for 2019, there is one, which is to implement a database to electronically track repairs and expenditures for each vehicles. And this is using an automated system to keep up with these procedures. What is the term? Database. And so that we can maintain and know when these vehicles are scheduled for maintenance and what our statuses are. The significant change, one significant change in the proposed budget is the request for an additional 3/4 ton truck at the cost of $28,400. The shop frequently needs a second vehicle in order to assist other vehicles when there's a breakdown. For example, if there's a breakdown and and somebody has to go and pull another vehicle in or conduct emergency maintenance, then the outreach of the maintenance effort stops. We cannot We cannot go out, we have to wait. We can't make a parts run, we can't do anything until that person gets back. And that could put a cog in operation, especially since understanding just how many vehicles that we have. So this vehicle is necessary to maintain continuity and provide us a better recovery capability. So, any questions regarding that particular significant change?
Dr. Trump?
Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir.
On page 143,
Yes.
where would this 28.4 be reflected?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Councilman Trout, the vehicle purchases will be listed in the Equipment Acquisition Fund.
What page? That's on page 157.
157?
159
Yes. Right, and there's a listing all the way in that particular section.
you'll see Public Works at the top, sir, and then Equipment, Maintenance and Garage for $28,400.
That's on what page?
159.
159, okay. Okay.
All right, then.
Good question. Instead of using a new vehicle for this purpose, is there some place where a new vehicle may be of greater value and take another vehicle with, further down its useful life, and instead of having, it sounds like this one is going to be kind of hanging around, available in case of need, and it might be better to have a new vehicle being fully utilized somewhere else and take that, in effect, secondhand vehicle and have it kind of sitting in the wings in case it's necessary.
The vehicle will have daily use. It won't be sitting around, and it is a second vehicle for the maintenance crew there. And what we have experienced is that we're commonly short a vehicle, believe it or not, even though it's a small crew. The other opportunity that the city manager did not mention is that there's oftentimes when a vehicle needs to go in for service, and this second vehicle will also be used as a loaner, when necessary, when a pickup truck meets the need, of course.
Absolutely.
So all of our vehicles are in pretty good condition. I mean, we do try to, hold on to them as long as possible, but we really don't, maintain vehicles that are no longer useful. So where the new vehicle lands is just sort of who's next in line.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on equipment maintenance? Anyone go solid waste?
All right, then. As an old Public Works Director, this is part of my favorite part of the budget here. Solid waste is the collection and disposal of city solid waste and as its primary responsibility. Regular weekly collections include house refuge twice weekly, household mixed recyclables, and yard waste. The division also collects from residents by appointment, metal and tires for recycling. Funds also provides disposal or composting of other debris generated by the city, including the annual leaf collection and storm debris. Our objective for 2018 was to seek grants to support and host an electronic recycling events which is if made available by the state of Maryland. Unfortunately, the grants were not offered this year, even though we've gotten them before, but we will continue to seek those out in the future. Under objectives for 2019, to host at least one recycling drop-off day in the city for electronics, to host 2 shredding events for paper shredding as our objectives. There are no significant changes to this budget. If you look on page 146, you'll see that, again, the biggest expenses and some of the biggest expenses here are salaries and wages, fringe benefits, and, of course, disposal fees for the solid waste and recycling, the tipping fees.
Any questions on solid waste? Yeah.
First of all, I'll start off before I ask my question, which is more curiosity than anything else. I want to extend the gratitude of the citizens for an outstanding job that this department does on an ongoing basis. we see it all the time when we're out and about, that this is one of the things that our community really cherishes, is the support we get there. Quick question for you on the personnel services that you have at the top of 146. There's a shift, it seems, in terms of the drivers versus driver collectors and the waste collectors. There seems to be a shift going on there in the terms of how people are classified. The total number is the same, but I'm just curious as to what's happening there.
So that's a recruitment effort that, we have a position known as driver collector. What a driver collector, his job description is the same pay grade, by the way, as a driver. But the driver collector position is somebody who would typically collect and who would drive as a substitute. And that is a very difficult position to fill, as you might expect. That we have had many cases where we have hired a driver collector who worked a couple days and said, hey, this is not for me. So our plan has been to shift these driver collector positions to full-time drivers. We need 14 drivers every day, so we identified 14 full-time driver positions. And our intent is to try to fill those 6 remaining driver collector positions from within. I believe that's going to be a much more successful recruiting effort, if you will. The collector who's currently a collector knows what a collector job is. If he gains his commercial driver's license and the skill to drive a truck, he knows that he will be the backup, if you will. But he gets a significant pay raise in order to do that. So that's what that's about. It's a good catch that you noticed that. So, we're still young in the process, so I don't know how successful, but working with the HR department and the city manager, we think that's going to be a better mechanism to fill these positions.
Excellent. Sounds like a good creative way to staff what is a difficult position to fill. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Stefanos, I just want to echo again what Councilman Wolfley said about the quality of the work that these guys do. It's one of the most visible services we have, and I hear almost consistent, universal, positive feedback from residents about the quality of the work that your solid waste guys put in, so I really appreciate that. Very briefly, we may have answered this last year, and I've just forgotten. It's been a busy 12 months. I know that you and I have talked one-on-one before about both environmental and cost impact of switching from twice a week to once a week solid waste collection. I can't remember if we had discussed that formally last year about the cost difference. I'm not endorsing the idea explicitly. From the surveying I've done, residents are pretty evenly split on this issue, but I just wanted to refresh my memory if we had talked about that in the past.
We have not. That issue remains open. I believe I owe council a report of some sort to give recommendations. It's a scary proposition, as you can imagine. Council did authorize some funds the year before last, actually, for us to buy some services to look at different routes, route planning. And, the concern is, of course, once you kind of do it, it's kind of hard to come back. So we have some routes planned, and the issue is still an open issue. I would be very curious to know if council has interest in us pursuing that, because it's a very challenging thing to do without knowing that there's any support for it.
I completely agree, and I don't think we're in any particular rush on this one. 2 years ago it was divisive. In the conversations I've had recently, it's still very divisive. I do know that we are collecting less trash solid waste than we have been in the past, and I get the sense that, from purely a math point of view, it would probably make some sense to consider this. So I do want us to have that conversation down the road, especially as we look at cost cutting in the future. But I do appreciate your having that in the back of your mind, and we'll revisit that down the road. Thank you, Mr. Stefano.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question for Mr. Stefano. Following up on, well, this is not the question, but this is just a comment. Following up on my 2 previous colleagues with regard to that initiative, I would hope that if we decided to look into that we would first do a pilot program before we made any changes. And also, when we're developing the pilot program, I think we really need to look at the demographics of the area, because I would not like to see the pilot program just done pretty much in the area where there are townhomes. Because as you know, the recycling bins for townhomes are smaller than the recycling bins for individual homes. So I would like to see us, if we do that, if we anticipate making the change on the frequency of picking up solid waste or trash, that we do a pilot program, and before we do the pilot program, present what the parameters are to the council, so the council can provide feedback and get some understanding and learn what we're doing. That was the comment. The question is, under objectives for fiscal 19, I want to know, is this the area where you would be adding in the collection of expired prescription drugs?
No, sir. The objectives for 19, the one is just electronics.
Mm-hmm.
Electronics typically, unfortunately, go in a trash can because we cannot take them with the household recycling. We would like to host a couple of events, where you can bring your electronics to us. That way they will get recycled. It's just it's an effort, it's an environmental goal. The other one is about paper shredding, so neither one of those has to do with prescription medicines.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm asking. Is this the area, my question is this the area where this should go? And if it's not the area where it should go, where should it be listed?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it's probably most likely with either a combination, a coordinated effort between our police department, our emergency management, and public works.
I know the police department has been the one that's been the catalyst for handling it.
Right. I think it should be a coordinated effort with, I think, with John Eske leading it, since that's, the abuse of these prescription drugs is more of a public safety issue, but with support from him to tell us where they go, where to put them. And I think that would be the effort.
Is it listed? I mean, I haven't.
No, we have not, that's not been approached in here. We'll add that.
Could we put a thumbtack in when we get to public safety?
Yeah, we'll
to
make
address that?
We'll make a note of
Right.
coordinating that.
Right, because there's a lot of medications that folks are taking that their physicians change. I mean, I was taking a prescription myself, and my doctor changed my medicine. He says, well, you don't need as much, so he reduced it. So obviously the one I was taking, now I can't throw it down the toilet. I can't put it in the trash.
Point. We don't want to flush it.
Yeah,
because it
can't
gets
do
in the
that.
bay and
Yeah.
kills the crab.
That you can't do.
That's bad. All right, we'll add that mission to the
All right,
budget.
thank you very much.
Any other questions? We go to streets on 148.
Yes, sir. The responsibility of this division includes all street and sidewalk maintenance, as well as street and traffic signs, posts, snow removal, ice control on all of the 193 miles of streets that we have. The objectives for 2018 include initiating corrective action to address manhole assemblies found to be in need of repair during the recent condition assessment study of all manholes on high-volume roadways. And this objective was completed in 2018. There's an ongoing program to replace 300 street signs per year, and that was conducted in 18, and it began in 16, and this division was able to complete that for 2018. Also, there's been an annual sidewalk repair program to address sidewalks in the worst condition, and that objective is complete. And looking at objectives for 19, we have a continued the corrective action for the manhole assemblies that were found to be in need of repair. There's a continuation of the street sign replacement, and the sidewalk program is being revamped for the next year, and they're working on monitoring the conditions of the sidewalks to come up with a priority list. There are no significant financial changes in this budget. It's a 25-person division, And of course, there's, other than personnel costs, there are significant costs as far as street lighting and the traffic signals that we maintain for $680,000, and there is an increase in that based on the usage that's been demonstrated this year. The street resurfacing, using our contractor Reliable, is a multi-year contract. This year, we're planning to pave $1.9 million worth of streets in the city of Bowie, and those are the significant issues with streets. Any questions?
Questions on streets? Mr. Wolf?
A couple quick things. The first is, for my edification, what was the issue, or what is the issue with the manholes? I've seen some of them replaced, but I don't know what the issue is.
The issue is that some of our manholes, the cover sits in a thing called a rim, and the rim has deteriorated over time, and as a result, the cover doesn't sit perfectly, and as a vehicle hits it, it has a possibility even to pop out. So that's what the assessment did, to find those that were in the worst case and make sure that it's a safety issue. And then we just replaced the rim with the, one that's stable and safe.
I could see how that could be valuable.
Yes.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
That's worse than a big pothole.
Mr. Stan?
Two quick ones for streets. First, I think we talked in our previous work session about LED lighting and ongoing plans to slowly replace city lights with LED. I wanted to bring that up again tonight just for a quick follow-up discussion. Where are we in that conversation? Are we moving forward with like a systemic LED light replacement thing? I think we figured out from a cost perspective there isn't a significant difference. Is that something we're actively working on or talking about?
This is probably the same category as the once-a-day trash. So far, I mean, we actually are approached quite frequently by vendors selling LED lights. But so far, we have not been able to come up with an affordable plan. The cost to replace the fixture, it's pretty expensive. And the savings, unfortunately, everybody knows an LED fixture burns quite a lot less energy than the current fixtures, which are mostly high-pressure sodium. However, how much energy you burn is not directly equated to how much we pay for the energy. So the energy that we pay is not based on actual meter reading. The streetlights are not metered. It's based on a tariff that is published by BG&E. And so they publish a rate for an LED fixture, and based on energy costs alone, which both include the energy production cost, which we buy from a provider, and this delivery fee that we pay to BGE, the payback is very, very long, well over 10 years. So far, we haven't come up with the solution that says it makes sense to start a systematic citywide program, if you will.
Gotcha. So the payback would be 10 years to justify the cost of even making the change in the first place?
So I believe that I don't have the exact payback with me. I mean, what you'll hear is that the payback is 3 years, and I can't understand where they're coming up with that.
Gotcha.
So, your upfront costs are millions of dollars, if you were to do a citywide program, your upfront cost is millions of dollars, and it would take many, many years to recoup that in your energy savings.
Gotcha. If we could, and I know you got a lot on your plate, if we could down the road get a ballpark estimate of what the actual cost would be for citywide replacement, that would at least give us something to start a conversation for down the road.
Sure, I can actually share something with you, fairly short order, because we have, had to kind of analyze that based on the light fixtures that we have and based on the published tariffs. What we haven't really quite figured out is it's not just the energy cost that you pay, it's also the maintenance cost.
Right.
And if any of you own LED light fixtures or bulbs at home, the nice thing about it is they don't tend to go out like your incandescent bulbs. So there is some savings on the maintenance side that we haven't been able to quantify, and that may help close that, or shorten that payback period, if you will.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you can throw us any figures just down the road, I'd really appreciate that. I know this is something that you've been keeping on your back burner as well, so thank you for that, Mr. Stefanos. This other question is totally parochial. For street cleaning, sidewalk and street cleaning, do you happen to know, and you can answer this later, go back and check with staff, if crews are going to be in Old Bowie anytime soon or when they're next on the rotation? I had a couple questions from residents last week about
I'll
that.
certainly get that scheduled to you, but I don't have it.
Not a problem at all. I appreciate that, Mr. Stefanos. Thank you.
Quick follow-up on the LED light issue. I think the fundamental problem is the pricing on the tariffs aren't actually reflective of what the savings are. Is there any standard is there any standard energy savings that we could compare to the tariffs, and then perhaps start working with the Public Service Committee to, the Utility Committee to see if BG&E might at some point in time down the road change the tariffs?
One of the challenges in regards to working with BG&E in getting this set is there's still a wide variety in regards to LED lighting and the quality of the LED lighting in that regard. It is certainly worth an effort to have conversations with them. We actually had a meeting last week with a lighting contractor in which we did discuss street lights, and specifically this issue, the tariffs came up. So we have set as a work item for ourselves to talk and meet with BGE. I believe Ms. Pizzurdo actually has a meeting set to talk with them in the next week, and this is going to be one of the topics that we talk about. But the challenges with the changing industry and how they have set their tariffs, they just have not really kept pace in terms of what their rate is based on the variety of all those LED lighting costs that are out there. There's not a standard in terms of efficiency. Some are extremely efficient and save a lot of power, and you get a quick payback, but because of the tariff situation, you could switch for any LED, and it can have variable energy savings associated with it. So they really work towards that lowest common denominator of the technology.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Trout?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to the street lighting tariffs, have we approached MML to see if we can't get some assistance along those lines, or what MML's take is on that? That's one. And question number two is, have we contacted Kensington, Maryland? Kensington, Maryland is not as large as we are, and on their main street right around where their city hall is completely LED lighting. So I would like to find out what they did, what they're experiencing, since I know of a municipality in Maryland that is using LED lights, and that municipality is smaller than us.
Oh, well, we haven't talked to MML. We can do that and see what their take is on it, and we'll talk to our counterparts in Kensington and see how they did it and what sort of deal they got, if they got one at all.
You might also want to ask MML, do they know of any other municipalities in the 157 municipalities in the state that have LED lighting?
We'll check that. You betcha.
Okay. Any other questions? Streets go to stormwater management, 151.
All right. Stormwater management. This division provides stormwater management facility management for the city stormwater systems. And services provided by this include cleaning, mowing of grass, draining areas, and the objectives of this particular for 18 were to renovate the basins at Woodcliff Court by September 30, 2017. That was completed. They renovate the riprap outfall channels at Pope's Creek Park in November 17. That was completed. The objective for 19 is to replace the channel fencing at Buckingham and Bradford Lane by September 30, 2018. One significant note here is that this division is being moved effective 2019 from community services to public works. And so that we can realign the functions with the correct department. And so that is the significant change. There are 7.7 employees, FTEs there. Largest expense, of course, is personnel. Any questions about
Questions on
that?
stormwater? Hearing none, let's go to water sewer on page 173.
All right. So, for the purposes of people who don't have this fine reference book proposed budget, I'll talk about the water sewer operations. The City of Bowie water and sewer system provides services in the following sections of the city, which comprise less than 40% of the city households. That's Bowie Forest, Buckingham, Chapel Forge, Derbyshire, Fox Hill, Grady's Walk, Heather Hills, Idlewild, Kenilworth, Long Ridge, Meadowbrook, Overbrook, Rockledge, Somerset, Tulip Grove, Victory Heights, Whitehall, and Yorktown. All other sections of the city fall within the franchise area of WSSC. Therefore, the City of Bowie water and sewer system remains essentially an enclave in that, with limited exceptions, does not expand into newly developing areas. It maintains a stable customer base, averaging approximately 7,900 customer accounts, of which 97% are residential. I'd like to direct your attention to the rate history at the bottom of page 173. The budget proposes a water increase and an increase in water and sewer rates. The proposed increase of 25 cents per 1,000 gallons for water service and 35 cents for wastewater service, and it equates to approximately $7.8 per quarter for average household using an estimated 13,000 gallons of water per quarter. This increase will help maintain the financial stability of the system. Any questions regarding what I've covered so far? All right.
Yes, quick question.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you were able to, as I sprung it to you kind of last minute, comparison on how we are for rates against WSSC?
Yeah, Mr. Matthews has that information.
Wonderful, thank you.
In comparison to WSSC, we must take some things into account. Basically, the size of the water pipe that the water is traveling through. So I kind of used a 1-inch diameter to make this determination. So WSSC, for the 13,000 gallons of an estimated quarterly use, their fee would be $179.94. Bowie would be $230.90.
Thank you.
All right then. Looking on, going to page 174, we'll give a brief summary of the funds required to operate the system. You're seeing, in order to operate our division budget, we need $4,539,000. Billing and accounting is $532,000. Non-departmental is $184,000. Transfer and central support, $506,900. Debt service is $381,700, and the capital outlay is $977,800, for total funds required of $7,121,600. The balance required to be added from the reserves is $315,900 to get us to the funds that we need to operate the system. I'd like to go to page 177 to look at the revenue estimates. The water sales are estimated at $2,064,000. The sewer surcharges are estimated at $2,624,200. The minimum charges, $1,035,500. Other revenues, which include interest income, rental water tower leases, claims, reimbursement, miscellaneous revenue, account processing fees, and forfeit discounts and such. That it comes to $371,000. Other financing sources, which include renewal, replacement, appropriated retained earnings, sales of fixed assets, state grants, projects, and proceeds from state loans, is $1,026,900, which totals at $7,121,600, which, you know, equals our funds required that we mentioned on the page before. Expenditure summaries would be billing and accounting at $532, and this is on page 179. Billing and accounting for $532,000. Water supply, $2,740,100. Sewage treatment, $2,776,700. Debt service, $381,700. Non-departmental of $184,200. Transfers from central support services, $506,900, with a balance, total expenditures of $7,121,600. I'm going to hand over to the Finance Director to talk about billing and accounting associated with this particular department.
Thank you, Al. Billing and accounting, as you know, is basically handled through the finance department. What we try to do in the billing and accounting layout of expenditures is to articulate what expenditures are needed to run the water and sewer fund. The services that are provided are basically customer service, billing for utility service, debt service, non-departmental, and investment services. Our budget is pretty stagnant. There has not been an increase in employees. You can see in our workload performance indicators the amount of customers that we deal with and what our allowance for uncollectible accounts is estimated to be in FY19. Major sources of expenditures, of course, are the personnel, salaries and wages, and fringe benefits.
Any questions regarding billing and accounting to Mr. Matthews?
So sorry, it's not directly related to, actually sort of related to billing. Mr. Matthews, if I remember correctly from previous presentations, our combined water and, or our total water rate was a bit lower than WSSE's, if I remember correctly. And from more recent presentations, I think we've about caught up at this point. I mean, generally speaking, I fully support making sure that our rates are whatever they need to be, you know, to guarantee the system's funded. I recognize our hands are tied. But one of the things I've been pointing out to residents who have been calling with concerns about the increases in rates is that, you know, our rates were historically very low, which is part of the reason we've been raising them now. Do you happen to know off the top of your head where we are in comparison to WSSC right now?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, if we use the estimate of 13,000 gallons,
I take it back. I was in the bathroom when Mr. Wolfley asked
Okay.
that question like 10 minutes
No
ago,
problem.
so I'm just going to refer to the video. Thank you.
All right, then. Go ahead, sir.
A couple follow-up questions. When we, I know we have a couple of interconnects in with, or at least we have one, maybe we have a couple with WSSC. Have we been supplying them much, if any, water? And if so, is there a financial benefit to us to that?
Have we been supplying any water to WSSC? Through our interconnects?
No, we don't, the interconnects that we have are normally closed interconnects. And we have not had them open at all in recent history.
Okay.
The question that I think sometimes gets confused is that we do sell water to WSSC. WSSC owes the distribution system that's in Melford. And so they are like any other customer. They pay the same rates as every other customer, but, you know, it's a lot of water because they're servicing the entire Melford site. So the city does actually, our pipe ends on our side of 3, Maryland Route 3, and then from there, they are connected to our system. They don't have their own water source. They buy water from us, and then they own all the distribution over in Melford.
So we've never had any emergency needs for the interconnects then?
We have not.
Well, that's good news.
We have had scares since I have been, I've only been here 3 years, and at one point we had a very bad break on one of our raw water mains, and it was very comforting to know that we had the interconnect, and we were actually in touch with WSSC at the time, but we were able to effect the repair quickly enough where we did not need to open interconnects.
That's it. I'll have a few more later, but that's all right.
Okay, the next one would be the Water Division. This division is responsible for the production and purification of water supply for the city, which meets and exceeds the state and federal health standards. The water is fluoridated for health purposes, and iron is removed by filtration, flocculation, aeration, sedimentation process. The cost of maintaining the water distribution system is included in this division. In 18, there was one objective to install meters at Public Works, and the engineering solid works building has already had meters in 18. New meters have been installed in the streets, utilities, and the process, we expect this to be completed by the end of this year. The B there was improve the chlorination safety by modifying the injection system. This objective was completed this year. Draft and implement the water conservation plan. This was completed, and submission of the water conservation plan ensures the city's eligibility for an MDA water quality financing grant should they come available. D there, finalize plans for a multi-year recapitalization program for deteriorated water distribution mains. And this is an ongoing project. We just talked about it a bit last week. For 2019, there's a retrofit objective for 2-axle trailer with racks for hydrants and shoring to improve efficiency. Number 2 is to implement a first phase of a supervisory control and data acquisition engineering design project for the water plant. 3, conduct a comprehensive engineering evaluation of water plant filters, pumps, and chemical process equipment. Significant changes here there within the water division and the water and the wastewater divisions. We're going to add we propose to add 2 people, one in the water division and one in the wastewater, but both of them are being housed right here, correct? And so, and to be shared with wastewater. Right. And so the personnel in the water division are 12.8 FTEs. Salaries and wages and fringe benefits are a large part of the budget and the biggest part of the budget for the water division. Any questions or comments?
Quick question for you on this, on the issue of installing meters. With the completion of this fiscal year, administrative buildings, will we have water meters for all of the city facilities to include parks and whatnot that are hooked up to the water system?
Not every facility. One that's specifically mentioned here is our wastewater plant, believe it or not, is not hooked to a meter. That's a very complicated project, unfortunately, so that will not be completed this year, and an expensive project. And I'm going to have to promise to get back to you I believe we have completed every other city facility so that everything is metered now, but I'm going to get back to you this week with a status report to verify that.
Yeah, it seems to me that given the condition of the operation, that we ought to make sure that we're collecting and putting in for whatever we're using from the city as a whole. Maybe even try and figure out what we've used kind of as a retrospective in terms of what should be fairly paid for that.
right? And you know, one of the incentives to get everything metered too is, you know, MDE, our regulator, actually requires that we track water loss each year. And so, you know, if we are delivering water to places we're not even metering, that shows up on a report as lost water, unfortunately, when it's not really lost. So that was kind of one of the reasons we want to get, you know, every facility, making sure we're not sending water anywhere where it's not metered, so.
I would also assume that that means there's an assumption that there might be lost sewage as well, or you're treating less water, and people wonder where it's going. It's got to go somewhere, presumably, and would not match up to what you're paying for, getting for sewage revenue or volume anyway. Anyway, thank you. That's good.
Any other questions?
All right then, this division is responsible for the collection and treatment of raw sewage. This sewage is treated and returned to the Patuxent River in full compliance with state and EPA permit standards. Therefore, this division houses those costs. The objectives for 18 were to conduct and find a solution to meet the NPDES copper permit that will take effect on June the 1st, 2019. This study shall be completed in June the 30th, 2018, and a pilot program is underway. A chemical called TR6 is being added during the treatment to determine if copper levels can be reduced to meet the new permit levels. If successful, we will seek funding for bulk storage tank in 2019. The other objective was to investigate the feasibility to reduce the chemical usage by 25%. Alum is currently being used only as needed. Water plant iron acts as a phosphorus removal agent in the same manner as alum, and thus alum usage can be reduced. Continued monitoring is required to validate the chemical treatment needs. Based on copper reduction requirements in the new discharge permit, a new chemical treatment, TR6, may be required. While this represents an increase in chemical costs, the TR6 also has a positive effect on pH. As a result, reduction of soda ash may result, which would offset the TR6 increase. The third objective for 18 was to develop a sewer rating system for all the City Bowie maintained sewer lines by evaluating sewer line blockage data obtained using the new sewer line rapid assessment system, and this project was completed. For objectives for 2019, continue the sewer rating system for the rest of the city of Bowie maintained lines by evaluating system sewer lines blockage data obtained by the system that we mentioned, the rapid assessment system. Install aeration digesters in pump station number 5 to solve the fog problem and to save on hauling. If successful, we will budget to install digesters at other pump stations also. The significant budget changes add 2 utility service workers at a cost of $93,000 to be shared with the Water Division, as I mentioned earlier. There are 18.6 employees, FTEs in this particular division, $1.2 million for salary and wages, $400,000 plus for fringe benefits, and those are the largest expenses associated with that division. Any questions about this division? All right. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Matthews. He's going to take us through that and the debt service.
Council, the non-departmental expenditures for the Water and Sewer Division are a collective of expenditures that are not accounted for in the individual divisions. Debt service and contractual services, mostly for property and casualty insurance for the plant, other charges such as incentive awards, reserve for contingencies, reserve for personnel adjustments, and the transfer to the general fund for the overall support from other departments. I wanted to also say, Councilman, we do estimate the amount of water that is used for city facilities without a meter. And it's offset against this $560,000 that we're showing as essential support fee. So as we get those new meters in, we can do some actual cost estimates for that.
Excellent, thank you.
Again, the debt service for FY19, as we use our current schedule, the first loan is for the water and wastewater improvements. The debt service for 19 will be $251,361. The next loan was for the enhanced nutrient removal upgrade. That will be $102,895. And the last debt service was for the plant building renovation for $140,000. The debt service is $9,100 for that.
One, oh, go, I'm sorry.
Oh, we're about wrapping up with, right, yeah. I just want to say a quick general thank you, again to Mr. Spanos, Mr. Matthews for being here tonight. I think we got one more section to do before I forget. Ever since we met, I think 2.5 years ago, Mr. Spanos, your department, your staff, everyone working for you has been absolutely tremendous. We get really great feedback about Public Works across the board. And I can attest that you personally are one of the most responsive people in City Hall, both to residents and to us, and I can't tell you, especially given the important nature of what your department does, how much I really appreciate that. So I just wanted to get one good gushy-feely thank you out there before we closed up tonight. And Mr. Matthews, I'll say a lot of nice things about you as well, especially when we get to finance down the road.
Any other questions about waterway? All right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to direct your attention to the last page here for tonight, which is the schedule for the equipment replacement on page 191. If you'll follow the column down the left, you'll see that we use the words new there, and to focus on significant changes. That's approximately $166,700 worth of new vehicles, half-ton truck, Ford Fusion, half-ton meter reading cargo van, and a mini excavator. And the cost for those are, and the life, as you can see, we do a really good job of estimating not only the cost, but when we project that we'll have to replace these pieces of equipment and their vehicles. And so this is what we propose to implement.
Question?
What we do is we conduct our maintenance people, along with the department directors, during the review process, they present the vehicle that needs to be replaced, and with a maintenance management condition and history that we look at to see, one, if the vehicle needs, or piece of equipment is in need, how old is it, whether it's still supported by parts and maintenance or by the manufacturer. Also, whether the vehicle or piece of equipment has become more expensive to maintain than it would be to replace it. And we go through that maintenance management process, and of course you might know that I went through that a bit in the Army and maintenance management, and that's how we got to the point. Mission, condition of equipment, and the cost to maintain, all that goes into this particular list of replacements.
Question?
Quick question, the Ford Fusion, what is that, the purpose for that one?
Yeah.
It's actually just for our water plant. It's a vehicle just for them to get to meetings and those sorts of things. It's a commuting vehicle, if you will, just to get around the city. Right now, the water plant has only one, pickup truck that is really their maintenance vehicle. So it's very common that, they need to have two people away from the plant at one time.
Very good. Any consideration in using an electric vehicle there?
We did. We did think about it, and I think we opted for, the least expensive cost here.
Okay. All right, let me-
upfront cost, if you will.
Upfront, all right, I may have something I can share with you on that, I'll go take a look-see. That'd be good, all right, thank you.
Any other questions on that? All right, let's go to water sewer CIP on 266.
We did that last week, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
So we're done for the night.
we're done now. Okay, you got the, yeah, I'm looking at my own yellow marks. Okay, well, before we close out, I do want to repeat what you've heard from a couple of people over here about the entire Public Works water sewer operation. These folks are in every neighborhood in the city half a dozen times a week, and they are like a good referee at a football game. They're so good you don't even notice them.
Well, they also do all the jobs nobody else wants to do that has to get done, too.
Yeah,
So-
unless it's a Tuskegee game, then you understand why you need referees. Well, on behalf of all, I want to, if you could pass on our appreciation. We know sometimes the work's not always glamorous, but it is incredible not only for the health and safety of the city, but for the way the city continues to, maintain its standards. So on behalf of all of us, if you would pass on our deep appreciation for everything you do to make this city great. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn budget work session number 2.
Moved and second by Mr. Marcos. Any question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, guys.